Imagine you were a kid once again. You just came back from school. Have your lunch and sit in front of the television for your daily dose of entertainment. You turn your TV on and switch to Cartoon Network, and now you get lost inside the world of imagination. Such a blissful life. This cartoon's often meant to be heartwarming, light-hearted, and funny, with a pinch of social messages here and there. But there were times when the cartoons made for kids took a dark turn. And today we are going to take a look at some of the episodes from our beloved TV shows that made us think. Was this really meant for kid? SpongeBob Squarepants, a popular animated series which aired on Nickelodeon in 1999, was about the adventures of a yellow sea sponge and his aquatic friends in the underwater city of Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob was a beloved character because of his childlike enthusiasm for life and the innocence he brought on the show. Many other characters were also fun to watch, like SpongeBob's best friend Patrick, a friendly pink starfish, and the pet Gary, a sea snail who meows like a cat. SpongeBob and Gary shared a special bond and were heartwarming to watch. But on the third episode of Season 4, things took a rather different turn. Episode 3 opened with SpongeBob bringing snail food to his house. When he reaches home, he gets a package containing the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy paddleball set. Also in it is the Dirty Bubble Challenge, requiring him to do 29,998,559,671,049 hits in a row with the paddleball. He gets so carried away with the game that he forgets to feed Gary and gets angry with him for distracting him from his game when he wants food. SpongeBob ignores Gary, saying that he wants to be left alone. Out of hunger and desperation, Gary tries to get him to feed any possible way, but this only annoys SpongeBob even more. With this, SpongeBob neglectfully yells at him to leave him alone. Heartbroken and hungry, Gary abandons SpongeBob and leaves the town. Later, Patrick comes to see SpongeBob, but it turns out he is still trying to complete the Dirty Bubble Challenge. Patrick then reveals that he won the challenge but lost the trophy. SpongeBob realizes that he has not fed Gary yet. After finishing with food, SpongeBob calls for Gary, only to find out that Gary is gone, as he had been doing the challenge for a week. The two try to find him, and after a while, they find a note from Gary stating that he ran away. SpongeBob becomes horrified and remorseful for himself. Then he goes on a desperate hunt. Meanwhile, Gary is going through a town far away from Bikini Bottom and gets picked up by an old lady who mistakes him for another snail. At the same time, SpongeBob tries to look for his snail all over town, but cannot find him, much to his despair. SpongeBob and Patrick start to search for him all over town. Patrick ends up going in a store to look for scented pine cones, and he sees Gary. However, he is too distracted by the scented pine cones that the old lady greedily took only for herself, so he never tells SpongeBob about seeing Gary. Afterwards, SpongeBob and Patrick start putting up posters and messages all over town in hopes of finding Gary. And this event is followed by a song set to a montage of SpongeBob and Patrick unsuccessfully finding the snail, even missing him at certain points, where they are actually in the same place Gary and Grandma are. Also, a heartbroken and disappointed version of SpongeBob is shown at night in his pineapple home, sadly missing his beloved pet snail. Gary constantly gets overfed by the old woman, and at some point he sees the papers from SpongeBob telling him that he's sorry and to come back briefly before he comes across a closet full of empty broken snail shells which then fall on him. While looking at these shells in horror and seeing that the grandma is overfeeding him, he realizes that she is trying to fatten him up to eat him. The snails in the portrait on Grandma's wall then yell, "Run!" So Gary pulls himself out of their shells, causing him to roll across the floor, up Grandma's plate of cookies, and into the air. Grandma then throws the cookies to Gary, but he only looks at them with dreary eyes before rolling outside through the snail door, while the cookies get stuck in the door similar to axes. Grandma then pulls out a plate of deviled eggs too, and chases after Gary, telling him to come back while still trying to get him to eat, saying that her foods were a labor love. He makes his way into an alley and hides behind a trash can where one of the gangster snails he met earlier approaches him. Just before Grandma can search the alley for him, Gary pushes the gangster snail in front of her, and she mistakes him for Miss Tuftsy, so she takes him instead, much to Gary's relief. Then he leaves and goes to find SpongeBob. Meanwhile, Patrick comforts a crying SpongeBob, who decides to give up. Eventually, he goes outside and laments the fact that he neglected Gary, who finds SpongeBob desperately wanting him back. Gary finally reunites with SpongeBob much to his joy and promises things are going to much better between the two of them, then takes Gary home to get him something to eat, telling him he must be starving. Gary, however, only replies with a deep denial, meow, stating that he is overfilled. This episode shows the grief and resentment of losing someone that you love dearly, and how the presence or absence of the significant other may deeply affect your life. ScoobyDoo is a beloved franchise, which aired first in 1969. The show has captivated audiences with its blend of mystery, humor, and memorable characters. The franchise revolves around 5 friends, Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and a talking dog Scooby-Doo, who solve mysteries, supposedly supernatural creatures, throughout the series. The show was mostly a lighthearted comedic relief, but in a 2010 reboot, titled Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, the show decided to dig deep in the history and lives of the Mystery Gang. One of the most intriguing subplots revolves around the character of Fred Jones and his complex relationship with his parents. This is their story. In the 25th episode of Season 1, we are introduced to the original Mystery Incorporated, the gang consisting of Brad Chiles, Judy Reeves, Cassidy Williams, Ricky Owens, and a talking parrot, Professor Pericles. The gang, working on a case where they were looking for a piece of planispheric disk, find themselves in the Darrow Mansion. After Brad sees someone coming and going at night to the old Spanish church, they investigate. Professor Pericles flies off when they see something run by, and Ricky tries to stop him by climbing up an organ. The organs fall, and Professor Pericles comes back, explaining it was just a possum. This leads them to a scroll with the planispheric disk on it that was hidden in the pipes, but they are chased away by an entity called the Freak, which led to the disappearance of the gang. Episode 26 shows the Scooby Gang investigating the disappearance of the original Mystery Incorporated. During the investigation, the gang discovers the planispheric disk scroll and decides to find the missing pieces. It is here that we are introduced to Fred Jones Sr., Fred's father, and the mayor of Crystal Cove. Soon the Scooby Gang is haunted by the return of the Freak. The gang successfully defeat the entity and reveal the true identity of the Freak to be Fred Jones Sr. When asked about his motive, Fred Sr. revealed something that broke Fred Jr. It was revealed that Fred Sr. was not the biological father of Fred Jr., and that he kidnapped Fred from his real parents and named Fred after him. It was revealed that Fred's biological father were Brad Chiles and Judy Reeves. After finding the scroll, the Mystery Incorporated goes to Fred Jones for advice about finding the pieces. Fred teams up with Professor Pericles, and together come up with a scheme to blackmail the other members of Mystery Incorporated into leaving Crystal Cove by threatening them with fabricated documents implicating their parents in various crimes. Soon in the later episodes, we saw the return of the Fred's biological parents, but to Fred's surprise, they were not Saint indeed. In the later episodes, we saw that Brad Chiles and Judy Reeves were only concerned about the planispheric disk and would go to any length to get the missing pieces. When it is revealed that Fred has the last piece, Brad and Judy, along with Pericles and Mr. E, the main villain, decide to kill Fred with a rocket launcher. At one episode, they try to kidnap Fred and replace him with a doppelganger, but the gang overcomes everything and reigns supreme, after which Fred decides to disband the gang. The story of Fred's parents serves as a crucial element in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, blending mystery with deep emotional resonance. It also serves as a lesson that sometimes the closest ones hurts the most. Who doesn't know Tom and Jerry? Created in 1940, the show may be the most iconic animated series in the entire universe. The series features a constant back and forth between a cat Tom and a mouse Jerry, which makes up for a humorous and comedic premises. However, in an infamous episode of Tom and Jerry, we saw what may be the two iconic characters ending themselves. Well, that's what many people believe. The episode known as Blue Cat Blues opens with Tom sitting on train tracks, heavily depressed and waiting for an oncoming train to come and run him over, while Jerry laments at his friend's state and recalls how he ended up there. Jerry narrates that he and Tom were best friends before Tom falls for a beautiful white cat who, at first, seems to return his feelings before leaving him for Butch, an extremely rich cat, revealing she is a gold digger, confirming Jerry's earlier suspicions. Despite Jerry's protests, Tom desperately tries to buy back her love, but is continually outdone by Butch. When Tom tries to present her with a flower, he finds she has already received a beautiful horseshoe garland of roses from Butch. He then presents her with a small bottle of perfume, but then Butch arrives with a large tanker truck full of perfume. Tom squanders all of his life savings to buy a diamond ring for her, only to learn that Butch has already gifted her a ring with a large diamond so shiny that she and Tom need welding helmets to see it. He even take out a loan by willingly selling himself to slavery to buy her an old car, only for Butch to arrive in his long and fancy convertible, crushing Tom and his car. Tom starts drinking milk uncontrollably, ignoring Jerry's pleas, and eventually nearly goes down the literal gutter, but is saved just in time by Jerry. Tom becomes even more depressed when Butch and the white cat drive by in the limousine with a "Just Married" sign on the back. As the flashback ends, Jerry kisses a picture of his girlfriend before she drives past, having married to a rich mouse. Heartbroken, Jerry meets Tom and joins him on the tracks. The whistle of an approaching train grows louder as the cartoon fades out. Courage the Cowardly Dog is an American animated comedy horror television series which aired first in 1999. The show follows Courage, a kind yet easily frightened dog. He was abandoned as a puppy, but he was found in an alleyway by Muriel, who takes in her home. There he lives with Muriel and her husband Eustace, a cranky and greedy man who is jealous of Courage, refers to him as "stupid dog," and periodically uses the Ooga Booga mask to frighten him. In the opening scene, we see Courage enjoying empanadas with milk. He notices a missing dog ad on the back of a milk carton, triggering a series of flashbacks about his abandonment as a puppy. His loving parents took him to the vet after a mishap, and in a cruel turn of events, the veterinarian kidnapped them, leaving Courage traumatized. Courage, lost in his memories, neglects his empanadas. Eustace seizes the opportunity to claim the meal for himself, expressing disdain for Courage. Muriel, concerned about Courage's behavior, decides to take him to the vet. In another flashback, a young Courage follows the veterinarian to a secret lab where dogs are caged and then to the launch pad, witnessing the evil vet's malevolent plans. In the present day, Muriel and Eustace unknowingly take Courage to the same veterinarian, who turns out to be the evil vet from Courage's past. Recognizing Courage, the vet expresses a sinister desire to speak with the dog alone. Courage, aware of the impending danger, escapes the checkup room, leading to a pursuit through the hospital. Flashbacks reveal Courage's failed attempt to rescue his parents from the evil vet's rocket launch, where the vet shoved Courage's parents into the rocket and shutting the rocket's door, activating the countdown, and therefore preparing the rocket for launch. As the vet spots Courage trying to rescue his parents, he gasps in horror of the sight of the evil vet. In the present day, Courage is ensnared in the vet's net as he activates the rocket's launch sequence, throwing Courage into the rocket and latching the door shut. Eustace and Muriel arrive just in time to witness the villain's evil plan and are also captured. In a heart-wrenching flashback, Courage's parents remain trapped inside the rocket, their pleas for help muffled from the outside. As Courage attempts a daring rescue, the evil vet appears on the launch pad, determined to capture Courage and prevent any interference. With only 30 seconds left until the rocket's imminent launch, Courage desperately tries to outrun the pursuing evil vet. In a stroke of luck, he spots a garbage chute and dives into it, leading to a back alley adjacent to the launch pad. There, Courage watches helplessly as his parents are launched into space, a sense of profound sadness overcoming him as he tearfully waves goodbye. Fast forwarding to the present day, with just 40 seconds remaining until launch, the evil veterinarian hurls Muriel and Eustace, already captured, into the rocket. Sealing the rocket's door, the vet ensures that his captives will be sent into space, eliminating any interference with his evil plan. However, just before the door is sealed, Courage manages a daring escape. Chased around the launch pad by the persistent vet, Courage fights back in a desperate attempt to free Eustace and Muriel, like with his parents earlier. As they watch the unfolding chaos through the rocket's door window, Courage knocks over a bucket of hardware, causing the evil vet to slip and fall to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Courage rushes to the rocket's door, attempting to open it and rescue his owners. Courage then struggles against the locked door, but despite his efforts, it remains unyielding. With just 30 seconds remaining before the rocket's imminent launch, Courage finds himself struggling to open the door to the rocket. In the midst of this critical moment, the evil vet, determined to capture Courage and trap him in the rocket once more, confronts the frightened dog as the vet relishes in his sinister intentions, confident that he will succeed in carrying out his malevolent plan. As Courage grapples with the stubborn door, the evil vet seizes the opportunity to grab him, attempting to secure him alongside his owners for the impending launch. However, in a moment of desperation, Courage's sharp instincts kick in as he spots a stethoscope on his lab coat. Recognizing it as an opportunity to turn the tables, Courage seizes the chance to confront the evil vet. With unwavering determination, he prepares to do what he does best, face his fears head-on. Courage unleashes a piercing scream into the stethoscope. The sound reverberates through it, stunning the evil vet and catching him off guard. Spotting a rocket door key, he moves swiftly, snatching it from the vet's pocket. He skillfully unlocks the rocket's door, freeing Eustace and Muriel. Courage throws his owners into a nearby storage bin. He ducks to avoid Eustace and Muriel being thrown into the bin. Using the heavy door of the rocket to his advantage, Courage delivers a powerful blow to the vet's head. Courage shoves the evil vet into his own rocket, shutting the rocket's door in the process. Following his successful maneuver, Courage swiftly retreats to reunite with his owners. As the countdown races towards its conclusion and the rocket's imminent launch, Courage seeks solace in Muriel's comforting presence. As the rocket engines ignite beneath and the rocket launches, propelling the evil vet into space. Muriel, Eustace, and Courage witness the rocket lifting off, marking the defeat of the malevolent veterinarian and the end of his cruelty and twisted experiments. In a poignant flashback, the episode revisits a crucial moment in Courage's past. As a vulnerable and frightened puppy, Courage had been abandoned in a back alley adjacent to the launch pad. Alone and helpless, he faced an uncertain fate. However, fate takes a compassionate turn when Muriel discovers the abandoned pup. In an act of kindness, she scoops up the frightened puppy, calling him Courage. Recognizing the inherent courage within the small canine, Muriel decides to take him home, offering him a second chance at a loving and caring family. In the final scenes, Courage and Muriel sit on the porch, grateful for each other's company, with Eustace still cantankerous and eating his food, and Muriel wondering on what became of the cruel vet. The evil vet crash lands on an unknown planet, discovering that his breeding experiment has failed. Angry dogs, including Courage's parents, surround the veterinarian. The episode concludes when nervously he laughs on screen before being mauled off screen, ending his reign of cruelty. This episode for me as a 9-year-old kid was so heavy that I cried for hours. The emotional and heart-wrenching story got into my nerve that even now when I watch this episode, the kid inside me cries a little.